All right. Welcome back. Another episode of the Milione podcast. This morning, Shawn and I were going over topics to discuss. It's kind of interesting because I think that we both sort of struggle to not come up with things to talk about, but like the pacing of our days is very much the same week in and week out. So unless there's a major drastic change that's going on, say like a release or, next not this Sunday, but next Sunday we have the marathon. Like those are things you can obviously talk about, but outside of training every day and just the things that need to be completed for the businesses, it's pretty much the same. So we tried to think of some things that we could dive into, maybe some things that are on our mind. And I know for me specifically, I floated the idea to Shawn earlier last week of potentially onboarding athletes for Minted Athletics. As it currently stands, we have two pre-workout flavors / products on market, and we will be adding a third flavor as well as a protein powder. Now, like, you got to think of it, or at least I think of it, from like the athlete's perspective of we're not fully built out on our product lines, right? Like, so is that something they're going to think about when it's potentially less revenue, since you can't really get the full suite of supplements from Minted Health yet? And so I just kind of like posed the idea to Shawn as, so a way that we might move forward in the future, just to get his thoughts and hear about kind of if he's thought about it or not.
Yeah, I think it's an interesting concept, and you see a lot of fitness brands and like supplement brands do this, and it seems to work out really well. But yeah, as Marcus said, like we don't have the full supplement line yet, so it's like one of those things where somebody who we offer whatever to is going to have to really believe in the product and like the pre-workout, and then on our end, it's like, do we sign them to an exclusive deal when we don't have a full supplement range? Like, do we allow them to, use other supplements? And so it's like this back and forth until, we build out this full supplement line where we're confident that we have everything that an athlete would need to succeed. That kind of back and forth between, giving the athlete what they need, and then also, from a business perspective, making sure that we're getting the most out of the athlete and vice versa.
Yeah. I think when you sign athletes as, I guess the technical term would be affiliates, you want the athlete to succeed, right? Like you're bringing them in-house, essentially under your brand. And now you kind of have a vested interest in seeing the athlete do well in whatever they might be pursuing. They don't have to be competitive in anything that they're doing. Honestly, it's more of like, I think our overarching kind of idea is just this push toward exploring like where's either my genetic potential or what can my body do, and if the supplements help you along on that journey, then I think they're for you, right? The whole idea behind the pre-workout to begin with was Shawn and I pretty much just needed something that was generally short ingredients list and ingredients that had been studied and proven to be effective. So we just loaded it up with that, and it's worked out really well for us. We can kind of flex our usage of it. We can use it before the gym. We use it before most of our runs these days. And then, yeah, it's not like you have to be competitive bodybuilder or the fastest runner in the world. If you are, great. But at the end of the day, we just want to, if we're bringing athletes on under our umbrella, we want to see them succeed and continue to chase after their passions. Now, the problem with this is that I think social media kind of lends its hand to a lot of controversy, especially if you're somebody that is really focused on growth. If you're in social media enough, you're going to realize that controversy drives views and clicks better than anything else in the media world. And if that is the metric that you're chasing after, getting caught up in controversy all the time is probably going to be the easiest way for you to grow from like a viewership perspective. Whether or not, those viewers care about you as a creator, I don't know. But those vanity metrics can become appealing in that way. And from an ownership / brand standpoint, that's something we have to think about, right? Because once an athlete is representing your brand, they are now kind of attached to your brand image. And there needs to be a certain level of kind of character standards that not only the athlete is held to, but that we're going to have to kind of vet for before we think about signing anybody.
Yeah. And, I think it goes back to, Marcus built the community on TikTok by just posting his passions and like posting what he wants and what he likes, and not like kind of going into controversy, because nobody's going to lie. Everybody likes seeing their videos pop off and like get a ton of views. But at the same time, a lot of those views, they come and go because it's based on a trend or based on like a viral video. So I don't know. In my opinion, I think would both agree that the athlete we would rather have would be somebody who might be smaller than somebody who's gaining a ton of views and followers from, a trend or like controversy, and is kind of like building a smaller community and, really focusing on what they love, whether that be running, whether that be lifting, whether that be any sort of, athletic event. Because it shows like they have a true passion for it. They're trying to educate their viewers. They're trying to build this platform and build this community where they're obviously an expert at what they do, and they want to share that.
Yeah. I think there's something that is quite special about creators that have built up communities and continue to try to improve not only the communities, but like the people within their communities, and just be a positive force rather than something that's just super controversial or overall maybe net negative. It's like I said, it's a tough balancing act, because you really have to have discipline over what you're trying to build versus, focus on like long-term big vision stuff versus the immediate today's video hopefully, does crazy views because I'm now jumping into drama on, XYZ topic that's currently trending. It's hard, and I think it's probably better overall to avoid that stuff, especially, if you're not like a expert in whatever needs to be talked about. But, to each their own.
Yeah, and also like you don't necessarily have to be an expert. Like, I wouldn't say Marcus and I are experts in running. We're just very passionate about it. We like doing it, and like that's what we've chose to dive into and really pursue. But I think it's very, people who are maybe in the running scene or want to get into running can see that, it's somewhat relatable, because not too long ago we were just getting into running ourselves, and we were figuring it out as we go. We got injured. We bonked during races. We made all the mistakes that like people make. So it's just kind of growing and watching somebody grow through the sport, through an event, that I think people like to see.
Yeah. But it's also a two-way relationship with kind of athletes and stuff when you bring them on, right? Like you want to support the athlete, but at the end of the day, the athlete's also helping grow the business.
Mm-hmm.
So
100%.
It's sort of a kind of give and take relationship, right? At the end of the day, it needs to be fair on both sides. And so I know for me, I've been looking at kind of what is the industry standard around how people get paid, right? I think a lot of it is there's some people where there's like a base pay and then commissions obviously for sales. And then some of them I think are just commission-based, percentage-based sales. So figuring out what is going to work best. You want there, I think, in my mind, you want there to be a bit of pressure on the athlete to kind of like quote unquote eat what you kill, and you're getting a percentage of what you're selling. But at the end of the day, I think there is something to be said for a bit of stability, knowing that there is X amount coming in a check every 2 weeks or every month, that can take care of certain expenses in your life. And then on top of it, maybe there's a commission on each sale or whatever. I think that's a balance that we're going to have to look at and figure out what makes the most sense for us.
Yeah, it kind of reminds me of like sales, and like I have a few friends in sales, and it's just like every month or however, I don't really know how sales work. They have this quota that they have to hit, and they're always talking about how much pressure they have to like close a deal or get to that quota. And if they don't get to the quota, like they're on this, I think it's called a PIP or something, and then like a performance thing, and somebody's watching over you.
The pressure's even more.
And then it's just like at that point, it becomes like it consumes you, and I don't think that's what we want. We want, our athlete, if we're signing them, we obviously have faith in what they're doing, that we want them to have the flexibility to post what they want, to talk about the product what they want, but at the same time we hope that generates sales for us and generates commission for them, possibly.
Yeah. I mean, Shawn said it at the beginning. You want anybody that you're going to sign to be passionate about the brand to begin with, right? Like, we're very fortunate to have people that are in their respective sports already like both Minted New York and Minted Health. I mean, like, some of the one off the top of my head is Cooper Tier, like, likes Minted New York a lot, right? Our apparel and lifestyle brand. One of the fastest milers in the world. And that just was a natural. I don't even know how he found the brand, to be honest.
Probably just social media.
But yeah, I assume just, found it through social media, and now, we're friends with him and he supports what we're doing. And now Shawn and I follow him in his races and stuff. And it's cool. Like, that's the kind of connection you want someone to have, with a brand that they're either supporting or now, becoming a part of. On top, like, so last time we did the podcast, I fielded questions from people, and I was going back through it this morning, and somebody had mentioned A Mother's Love. So I haven't really ever talked about it much, just because I didn't think it really needed to be talked about, but people have asked about it a couple of times. So A Mother's Love was a passion project brand that I started in 2017, I think. I'd moved to New York and was kind of just dipping my toes into the fashion scene. And it taught me a lot, figuring out how to go from idea to manufacturing, learning about importing, learning about all the things that come along with manufacturing and then ultimately selling a product. And I don't think I was kind of rounded out in the vision. I mean, Shawn kind of saw the whole process as he has with Minted New York, but it was much more scattered, like almost like just wrong timing on it.
So from my perspective, and this is like a perspective from the outside looking in, because I was in college when he moved to New York, so he was just totally doing this on his own. It was very much more like creative in a way, like not as much business and creative as Minted New York is. It was like a lot of experimental pieces, a lot of what you said is just like learning how the manufacturing process works, and then like just releasing what you came up with. I think you had like one official drop technically, where you had you had the website, and
what was it?
It was a few different items. It was
the green shirt, I think. The green shirt, maybe.
Man, I wish I could remember.
The hoodie
I know there
with
was
the
a few items
embroidery.
because it was like collection 1, and you had the website. Oh, it was the tan A Mother's Love shirt. Sweatshirt, like heavyweight sweatshirt. But then I had an internship in New York, and I lived with Marcus when he was up there doing it. So I kind of got to see everything. It was just very different than what it is now because, I think you were still modeling at that time or catering or something.
Yeah.
And it was more of like a side project that I could tell he wanted to turn into something, but I don't know, maybe it wasn't the right time and place.
Yeah, like I said, it was a lot of learning how to do everything that we do well today, and that was almost like the trial run of making all of the mistakes. So it actually helped in a huge way because in iteration 2, I guess, which would be Minted New York and Minted Health, I knew what not to do and kind of ways processes could be improved just because I'd not done it at the scale, but done it before, or at least had experience doing it before. So sourcing, production, risks involved there, just generally getting items made. Even just how to talk to manufacturers and the language that you kind of have to use, all of that goes into kind of making anything really. It doesn't even have to be apparel. It could be supplements. It could be home goods. It could be skincare. It is all kind of follows the same pattern across industries when you're looking to make stuff. But I made a couple things, and it was a good experience. It was my first experience kind of posting anything art related, or I don't even know what to call it, but online. Like, you're putting yourself out there in that way for criticism and critique. And I think that was kind of another big thing for me, is just eventually pushing far enough to get over that hurdle and not care anymore about posting what I enjoy online. Because I think that holds a lot of people back in the realm of social media, and someone might want to get into social media in that way, but be kind of still holding on to the, oh my gosh, like, what are my friends going to think? What is my family going to think? What are random people going to think? And it kind of paralyzes you in that way.
Yeah, I mean, that's how I was for pretty much all of high school, college. I didn't really have like a social media presence. Social media is one of those things where it's like, it's kind of tough to put yourself out there and like post a picture and like not hyper analyze and all of that stuff. And we've talked about that on the podcast. But Marcus, I think, just decided to make a jump and go for it. And next thing you know, he's, creating My Mother's Love, but it didn't stop at that. There were so many ideas. There were so many companies. He was like, I should get an LLC for this. I should get an LLC for that.
I used to wake up and bug Shawn at like 6 a.m. on Saturday mornings.
Yeah, or
because I couldn't hold myself back.
Oatmeal, or like a protein oatmeal or something. Like, it was just, so it was always creating something. I think he just needed the platform, and then obviously, it's kind of developed into that, which is cool to see because, clearly he wanted to figure out what to do, how to make it work. It just took a little time.
Yeah. I mean, I remember being extremely frustrated that it wasn't, happening sooner. But I think that if you read anything from any successful, founders who have grown massive companies, one thing that has always stuck out to me is that they just say, just stick with it. Like, it is very hard to continue to wake up and do something and chase after something day after day after day when you can see no tangible progress being made. But you just have to show up and continue to do it. It's like the gym. It's like running. And I think that's kind of why I'm so into physical things, because like the only way you get good at something is to just continually show up. You have to show up. You cannot just like, I'm going to work at this for 1 year and this should work, right? Like, you have to just hammer, like, if you're really passionate about it, just hammer it out every single day and just keep going, and no one's going to think it's going to work. And you know what? That's fine. Just you have to continue to push forward. I was going to say something else about Oh yeah, you mentioned what was it? It was like the Mac Rogert is what I was gonna call it.
I wasn't gonna say anything because who knows if we were gonna visit that at another
We
time.
might revisit it, but I could talk about it. It was like a Mac. I had this whole kind of not business plan, but I had pretty much mapped out creating a macro friendly protein yogurt. And shoot, I might release it under Minted Health.
I mean, we still get mail to these LLCs he created
I have like 8
that
LLCs.
haven't even like that. Maybe he like. I mean, there's one that comes to mind. It was like a tech thing, but
My creator token.
yeah, and we get them all the time, and I'm always like, hey, this is. Remember when you said this is the one? And I always, poke fun at him because he was like, nah, this is the one. This is the one that's gonna. But
The thing is,
cool.
it still might be the one because who knows when I'm gonna revisit it. Because I think the idea, if I'm gonna form an LLC around it, I think the idea is sound. It just, especially in tech or tech related products, getting to market and building a product around it, as someone who's not an engineer and then would have to hire out engineering talent and or bring it in house, it's really expensive, right? And I don't think, I'm not going to rule any sort of tech products off the table for Minted New York. I've talked about wanting to create a fintech product before, and my creator token was a fintech product idea. And I'm not even going to say was, I'm going to say is, because it could very well morph into what we end up doing on the fintech side of Minted New York. But yeah, I mean, I would bug Shawn every single morning about that idea.
And we were in New York, so we were in his studio. So I was literally on just like an air mattress on the floor.
Shawn, I had my bed in the
privacy.
corner. I lived in a studio. I had my bed in the corner, and then directly in front of my bed, Shawn would be sleeping on. It started as an air mattress, but then you got an official mattress, I think, and you were just sleeping under the air conditioning unit. That's all I remember. So I would wake up as soon as I sat up in bed. I'd be staring directly at Shawn's feet.
Yeah, because his computer was right by my bed mattress on the floor, and his keyboard was so loud. It was like, and it would just wake me up, and he'd be clicking on the keyboard, and I mean, I just was like, holy like we need to figure this out. But luckily it was only for the summer, like 2 months or something. But it was fun. I enjoyed going out and
I don't think we've
living
really
in the city.
Yeah, I don't think we've really ever talked about living in a studio together like that.
Yeah, we did it then, and then we did it
After you graduated, before we got our new apartment.
Yeah, because Marcus's lease had to end before we looked to get a place. So I was back in the same spot, like actually as a
like
real
permanently.
world, like real job, graduated.
I think we did that for 4 months.
It was a couple months.
We'd have a couple routines. Shawn was working his job. I was working mine. We both had electric scooters. So we'd both leave for work probably around the same time and then get home. And then I remember Fridays, sometimes we would get sushi together at that one. What was it? Oshi Sushi?
Oshi, I think.
Oshi.
It was like Oshi.
Oshi on like 29th and 3rd.
Oshi Bay?
Oshi Bay, yeah. Sushi on like 29th and 2nd Ave or something
so
in Manhattan. And we'd either get like sushi together and eat that. We didn't have a dining table. We had one couch and like a coffee table that we would hunch over and eat at together. And then sometimes we went through a phase where we would go get halal guys from, what was it, like 14th Street and something. We would like ride our scooters. We were so excited. We'd ride our scooters down there. We'd go get our halal guys, bring it back to the apartment, hunch over our little coffee table on our couch. And yeah, that was pretty much it for 4 months until we moved into the place we're in now, and still in, and have far outgrown the place we're in now. But I think we're just going to stay here until forever.
I'm dying in this place.
Yeah.
Yeah, those are good memories, and I don't know. I think it was totally different times in our lives because we were both kind of
in the
working,
corporate.
yeah. And those Friday, Saturday, Sundays, we're just like, thank God they're here. We can relax a little bit.
Yeah, that's something that is kind of different now for me, at least. Like when you're working a corporate job, you kind of have that ability to be like, okay, well, regardless, I can turn my brain off a little bit. Now it's like just always running in my head because it feels like shouldn't really take any time off because
I mean,
ultimately we're in control of our future.
Yeah, but at least like now there's more. So like since you technically don't have to like ask permission to do anything, it's like you could go run a little bit later and not have to be at your desk at 9 o'clock, which has been nice. And like kind of just this flexibility where it's like, as long as the work gets done, as long as everything gets answered, then, work when you need to, which has been cool because especially for training, it's been nice to have a little more leeway.
Yeah, especially, I mean, during the summer we kind of had to get up and run early because of the weather, but as it gets colder, letting it warm up a little bit in the morning will be nice. Kind of went off topic, but wanted to bring it back to potential Black Friday ideas. So Shawn and I, since the business has started, have collected returns and not done anything with them. So we have a couple bins, and I'm talking, they're called Gaylord boxes, and it's these big cardboard boxes that you put on 48 by 48 pallets, and then you can fill with boxes, and then we kind of use them to ship to USPS. But we fill up those boxes with returns, and we have 3 that are like stacked full, and then some other returns in bags elsewhere. And this is product that generally either has a very minor defect or didn't fit correctly, but has been opened and tried on.
And I would say it's probably 98% just been tried on, and like the sizing wasn't right, or they ordered the wrong size. Like very rarely, I feel like people are sending back items with defects. So we have all of this like nice product that just didn't fit right, sitting in the warehouse.
But it's been opened and tried on, so I'm not going to sell it as retail, I guess, is kind of like the point that I'm trying to make. So yeah, Shawn and I have to go through all of it, but from the one box that we did go through, like I said, a lot of it is just try on and miss, in exchange for a different size majority of the time. That being said, it takes up a lot of room, and room is kind of at a premium in our warehouse right now. We had talked about this a little bit before, I think 2 episodes ago. And until we get a bigger warehouse, we need to find a way to kind of move this return product. So I was thinking, Shawn and I were brainstorming for Black Friday and kind of came up with the idea of these mystery boxes where you're pretty much guaranteed a high quality item at like 40 to 50% off price. And maybe we do it so where it's like tops mystery box, and then you just choose your size, and you're either going to get like a quarter zip or a Run Club hoodie, or we have crew necks going back from our first release ever, Minted Athletic crew necks, like the vintage ones with the guy holding up the world on it. And
essentially every product
we've ever released, you
could technically have a chance to get, because I mean at least one product has probably been returned. So
yeah, and I think we'd probably break it up like tops and bottoms, because we do have shorts now. Because I don't think it makes sense to just you put your size and then you either get a top or bottom, because I think people are probably different sizes for both. But that's kind of the idea. And if you're listening to this and you have an idea for potentially how that process could be improved, and or you just have another idea that you think might be interesting, please let us know. It can be comments here. It can be left as a review. You can send it to the support email, whatever method you want to get in contact with us. And we'll still continue to brainstorm. I don't think the mystery box idea is flawless. I think it's good, but there's a way we can improve it somehow. I mean, just from the one box we went through, it seems a lot of the items are tops, shirts, quarter zips.
Yeah. Well,
There's
that was
hoodies in
also
there.
from probably some of the most recent drops. Like
Yeah,
we have the
true.
Run Club hoodie bin, which is like probably mostly Run Club hoodies. But I think like the main priority is getting a lot of that stuff out of the warehouse to free up space. So like we want to have this system where it's like final sale. We can, you buy the mystery box, you're somewhat taking a chance, on what you get. But just making sure that, these returns that we're selling don't come back as more returns and just creating this never ending cycle.
Yeah, because generally, our return policy is pretty good, and we try to help out the customer however we can. But if we're gonna do something where it's a pretty heavy percentage off an item and it's like a Black Friday thing, probably just will be final sale. Plus, I think that maybe that a lot of people buying from the Black Friday sale will have bought before, so maybe they'll know their size already, so it doesn't even matter. They'll just be into the idea of, I know I'm a medium, I'll put in for a medium mystery box at 40-50% off and see what shows up, I guess.
Yeah. And a lot of people might actually suggest why don't you go through and just relist everything and with the size and what the item is, and it would take an extreme amount of time to go and count everything and put it into sections, and we don't have the space to put every item that we've gotten in return into a separate spot in our warehouse, because we thought of that, because obviously that would be probably the best way to ensure everybody got the size and item they want if they could get it. It just until maybe we get a bigger space or maybe we get a different way of handling returns, that might be an option. But right now it's just the situation that we have at the moment.
Yeah, and while I think probably 95 to 97% of the items are defect free, that's why we're marking everything down the way we are, because there is a chance that there's small defect on the item, and we can't go through and scan through every item, take pictures of the defect, and then make individual listings for all these items. So it's just kind of a if it's anything glaring, we're not gonna sell it, right? Like if it completely ruins the item, it's not gonna be sold. But if it's some threading issue or something, and that's okay by the customer, and they want to buy it for, like I said, 40 to 50% off, then that'll be an option.
Yeah. I don't know. I think it's a cool idea, and I think it's a unique way to potentially get something 40 to 50% off that has nothing wrong with it. That also is probably, when it was sold, sold at a much higher price. And, whatever we price out the mystery box to be, Run Club hoodie, that's a nice piece. And if it's somebody just needed to exchange it for a different size, it's perfectly pretty much brand new Run Club hoodie that you're getting. And I think it's a good way for people to, try to get something that they might like at a cheaper price.
Also, I think that there's the idea of the mystery box is interesting to me, because it's kind of like a game. If there was a brand I really cared about and they were doing a mystery box, I'd be well, I'll just throw my hat in the ring. Why not?
Yeah.
Let's see what happens.
Yeah.
So I was thinking about 2023 this morning, and how we could potentially start to line up our calendar to have releases that follow a better schedule, I guess. I mean, since we started, it's just been pour all of the money into production, produce the items, get the items, and then release them. And this is all well and good, but it doesn't really allow you any planning, and you always kind of feel like you're playing catch up, because these production cycles take a couple months, right? And so if you're releasing stuff for summer and you finally have that cash back in that cash cycle, and then you go into production for winter, you're running the risk of, if there's any form of delay, you're going to miss the winter cycle. And so that's why for a lot of apparel brands specifically, the big ones that are on, that have like well been established, think like Lululemon, Nike, like all of that stuff, they're already planning production for 2024, 2023 and 24. So we're like heavily disadvantaged there as far as like a streamlining everything process. So I was just thinking that in 2023 we should try to get on some form of calendar and at least give us rough estimate dates on when things need to be produced, and then we can have like the different seasons and what we'll produce for those seasons, so that planning is easier. Because the way it is right now, I don't think is conducive to matching not only demand but continued growth. So how that's going to happen, I'm not 100% sure.
Yeah, I think right now it's just working with what we have and working with the space we have and working with the whatever capital from the last drop we get and just like putting it back in. Eventually in an ideal world, we have more cushion, and then I think those things become easier to plan because you can be like, oh, let's allocate this much or however many resources to this drop and then get that going, and then, that sort of thing. But right now it's just very much like, okay, let's get this product out. Let's get the next product going. Like one after the other, one step at a time. But in a very, fast and try to be organized as possible manner.
Yeah. As I've had to kind of take on, as more responsibilities get kind of created just because we're doing much more, I feel that my windows to like do creative work have just shrunken so much that like I feel that it has to be not forced sometimes, but like a lot, like back in the beginning there was less, and I wouldn't call it admin work, but like work in the sense of like, dealing with the spreadsheets that manufacturers are sending in producing new items and dealing with all of that. And there's so much of that, and kind of just small things that need to be done to move business forward, that there aren't really large windows for me anymore to like plan from a creative space, like new item. Like I don't really know how to explain it, but the thing with creative work is you can't force it out of you. Like you can sit down and force yourself to answer 50 emails if you want to. You can't really force yourself to be like draw up or brainstorm an entire new line of items in one morning because like there's a deadline. Maybe you could, like, I mean, I know I can't. So there needs to be like, I guess maybe find a way for us to alleviate some of that off my plate and either on to not you specifically because there's already a lot on your plate, but maybe have to bring somebody else on like a VA or something.
Yeah.
It's so much. And it just bogs me down, I think, from pushing new ideas forward.
Yeah, I think there are definitely solutions, whether that be just like generally see how you're answering those emails or stuff like that. So maybe I can just start taking a shot at them. And then if I'm like, okay, this is too much, then maybe we go like, let's try to figure out if we can hire somebody for that. But, anything that would create like a bigger block for you to be more creative and get rid of some of that other stuff that probably not only creates stress, but limits your creativity even more because like you're stressed about that stuff and you can't really even get to a place where you're thinking like as a creative. So I imagine they probably tie in together. And I kind of like more of that other stuff. Like I'm not really like the creative type of person. I like more of the businessy, like that type of thing. So there's always possible solutions we can look into.
Yeah. There's a saying in a lot of the books that I've read is just like, you don't want to really get caught up working in your business. You want to be working on your business. And sometimes I think about that, when I'm doing what seemingly very minute things in the day-to-day that's like taking away from big picture stuff. But then again, I think it probably helps to keep a pulse on what's going on. And ultimately, this is just the reality in which the business is operating right now. So it kind of just has to be done. It is what it is. We are 9 days out from the marathon. So Shawn and I are in a heavy taper. Actually, I don't even know if I'd consider it heavy. We dropped from 65 to 70 mile weeks to 55
to
48.
48 this year.
44 to 48 this week, I think.
To 28 before the marathon. The week of the marathon, 28 plus the 26.2, which to me is like kind of a lot, but this is what the plan says, and I'm not going to just.
Yeah, I've had to really just trust the plan and the taper. We've never really officially tapered for any of the half marathons. Like we cut our mileage a little bit, cut stuff in the gym, but didn't really follow. We also weren't doing crazy heavy mileage like we have been doing. So my legs feel weird. Like my legs and my body just feel weird right now. They don't feel good at all, like really. So I'm hoping that we're gonna turn the corner on like my body is catching up on recovery right now, and that's maybe why it's sore and just doesn't feel great. And then come time for the marathon, it'll feel a lot better, I hope.
Yeah, everything I've read is like you don't want your body to feel like loose before the marathon. Like you want your body to feel like spring loaded, tight, like everything is firing. Right now, it's more of it doesn't feel loose, and it feels tight, but not a good tight. So
it's not even tight. It's like things are aching.
And it's just like kind of heavy. Like every time I'm running, I'm just like, God, I feel like my legs are heavy. But we've had some good runs these last couple weeks, like a few good runs.
Yesterday wasn't bad.
Yeah, exactly. So those are the types of things, and everybody will tell you, and everything I read is like, everybody kind of feels shitty on a taper, but like trust me, when you line up on the starting line, it's gonna feel a lot better. And I'm like, well, I hope so.
I sure hope.
Yeah, it's been all right. It feels good to taper, to be honest. Like even though my body doesn't feel great, getting rid of some of that mileage and waking up knowing I only have to go run 5 miles compared to like 15 is. Like, it's just you get an hour or 2 hours of your day to where you can go at your own speed and not have it hanging over your head, which I think mentally is a huge thing, because you have to, like, until you get that run over, you're always thinking about it.
I think the next podcast that we do will maybe just be a full marathon breakdown from from our training block to before the race, night before, what we were eating, how we felt, the actual race itself, break down the mile segments and kind of how our bodies are feeling at the time, do like a whole race report episode. Hopefully we're both.
Depends on how my time goes. I might not be there if I don't do well.
Yeah. So we'll see about that. But I appreciate everybody tuning in to this episode. Next one will be in about 2 weeks. I think every 2 weeks will probably be better. Not only allows stuff to happen in our relatively monotonous lives, but allows us time to kind of gather thoughts and talk about things that are going on. So probably a marathon episode next, and we have a marathon in 9 days. Hopefully it goes well.
God help us.
Bye.
Cheers.